So let us start with how you're gonna, just if you open up the doc, if you open up Substance Painter and you're about to start, texturing. So if you look over to the left, you've got your basic, standard paint panel here. You've got your paintbrush, your eraser, projection, polygon tool, but these are more like, it's like a 3D version of that. You've got a smudge, clone tool, material picker, substance, share site, right? It'll take you to an external link. If you have it connected to Photoshop, it'll allow you to do that as well. You can take your files and send them directly to Photoshop. At the bottom here is where this is what they call the shelf, and this is where your materials are located, your paintbrushes, your smart materials, your environment assets, your project, anything that, is included in your project will also be here. So this is where you would find that here on the right panel. This is where you would find your texture set settings if you have more than one texture set. And this is where you would have your layers, like if it was in Photoshop. This is where you would go and kind of bake out your textures. Here's where your properties would show up. They are definitely context sensitive, so depending on what I have selected is what is going to show up there, depending on what panel, what object, right? It's context sensitive. Up here, you've got a bit of your navigation. This is how you go into presentation mode if you want to, right here, this is presentation mode if you want to render out an array. This is, you can constrain your orientation, your perspective view, your 3D only. These are all corresponding to F1, F2, F3, and F4. So, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll switch between the different kind of views you have. And at the top is your standard toolbar. So let's get started. So I'm going to hit File and New. All right, I know I kind of went over that a little bit fast, but it's pretty standard, and you will, if you need a refresher, you can just rewatch this video. All right, so let us select the mesh. I've downloaded it here. I'm gonna do LOD2, and this is the lowest version of it. I just wanted to show you guys the power of this high poly to low poly process. All right, so now I've got my low poly, selected my LOD2, right? I'm going to make that available for you guys as well. Just, don't worry about that. You guys will be able to follow along. And if you want to follow along, actually, let me drop these in the chat for you guys right now, just so you guys, if you guys want to follow along, it will be in, uh, let's see, right here. So LOD2, and then I'm going to drop my high poly in as well. Hopefully it's not too big. Nope. All right. So that's the low poly and the high poly right there. If you guys want to follow along, it is in the assignments thread. You guys are going to be responsible for this weekend. If you work it with me now, you can get it done now and you won't have to, worry about doing it over the weekend. But, it's already here for you. I was going to make it available at the end of class, but if you want to follow along, hey, you're more than welcome to. All right. So, I'm going to change this from DirectX to Opengl. I'm gonna just, it's just been working a little better for me. I don't know what's wrong with DirectX. Sometimes it messes up my normals when I'm trying to bake. I don't know what that issue is about, but that's fine. Now we are going to just hit OK. Make sure you've got PBR metallic roughness selected. You're good to go on then. My document resolution is 2048. My normal format is OpenGL, and I'm just going to hit OK. I don't need to check anything else. So now it's going to bring in our model, and you can see based on my view, I've got my UVs over here to the right, and I've got my 3D model right over here to the left. And as you guys can see, if I turn on my wireframe, which is this guy right here, it's like my polygon fill, right? I can show my wireframe, right? And you guys can see that this is the low one, right? This is the ground one where we brought this all the way down to the floor, uh, you know. So let's see how this bakes. And And I told you guys before, F1 is the split screen, F2, right? And then F3 single, and then you can toggle back and forth. You can toggle. So let's go F2. Make sure, I like mine, and you can reorganize your screen here. If you guys are still watching my substance painter, you can reorganize these, move these around. This is fine. I like mine, the way it is right now. You can even, but yeah, I like it. I like it the way it is right now. So this will probably resemble what yours looks like. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go into my texture set settings, and I'm going to click Bake Mesh Maps. Right now that I've got my Bake Mesh Maps selected, I'm going to drop this guy down, and I'm going to do 2048. My dilation width is fine, and this is what I talk about when I talk about padding in our previous program, right? If you didn't leave any space, this padding, right, this diffusion, this dilation might spill over onto your other objects, giving you some weird artifacts and stretching looking issues and stuff like that. So you want to be careful and not, kind of hamstring yourself. So it's always good to think about the padding that you have. I'm going to uncheck this thickness. I don't need a thickness. There's nothing that requires that on this. All right, so now let's select, remember this piece of paper right here? I'm going to now navigate to where I have my high poly, select my high poly mesh, right? And I'm going to scroll down. Now I'm going to turn anti-aliasing. I'm going to do 4x4. Always, this is all fine. I'm going to go to my normal. That's fine. That's fine. My ID, I wanted to actually use, let's just do the mesh ID and then the hue shift. Okay, and for my ambient occlusion, I usually like to just do uniform. The curvature, on the other hand, I don't like to generate it for mesh because the mesh itself isn't very good in the sense that it's a low poly, and if I want my hard edges or my soft edges, it's not going to do a very good job. It doesn't do a very good job amalgamating that, but the normal map for some reason does a little bit of a better job. So I will show you the difference after I bake this test out. So just to show you guys, and I know right now that I don't have enough ray distance. So let's just bake this out and see what we get. All right. So, and as you guys can see, that checker pattern where it's showing, it might mean that, hey, you don't have far enough rays, right? If it's not capturing everything, I know that I'm gonna need to, the second time, just to fix that stuff. See, look, it's rendering our curvature. Look at the curvature. It looked very, very funky. All right, so let's hit OK. So here is our current bake, right? It's close, but we're not there yet. So, right, you guys should know by now what we need to do is go back in here. We just need to increase this max rear distance to send those rays a little further back to capture that, right? I just kind of drag the slider a little bit. I don't need anything crazy. I just need to go a little further back to capture that stuff in the back, right? And once again, I'm going to go into this curvature. Instead, I want to let it use the normal map, right? And then I'm just going to increase the detail all the way up to 1, and then I'm going to bake selected. Let's bake it all again. Right, the AO is nice. See, now my rays are going far enough, and they're actually capturing that detail back there, right? And that's what we really want. And look at my curvature map, looks nice. And now if I want to cycle through, look here, it now has populated our our project files into the scene. So now in our shelf, we can now navigate to any of these if we want. And you can even import your own maps if you bake it inside of 3ds Max. You can even import your own normals or your own curve or whatever you've baked out of 3ds Max. You can import it in here and use it the same way, just insert it into those slots. So that's a definite possibility as well. So now we've got our our mesh here baked. So now, if, as you guys see, if I cycle, hitting B on my keyboard as I cycle through, right, you can see that, hey, I've got all my maps, and they look decent. All right, and this is a good start. All right, and you guys, whenever you guys are done, and whenever you guys do this, I'm going to want you guys to save out all your maps for me so I can see that you've done all of these, right? You can right click here and you can export this resource. That's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to export these and save these out on one image, tile all of them up so that I can see all your maps, your ambient occlusion, your position, your world space, and your normals, right? I want to see all of it on one sheet, all right? So now that we've got our material, now let us look at let's look at the actual roller itself and see what it really looks like. And so here is our reference. So let's scroll down a little bit and move over. All right, so it's like a yellow metal or yellow plastic or yellow metal, I would say. There's something shiny in the middle, and then it's like a metal, just metal poles. So I think yellow metal, yellow. Okay, don't try to say that 10 times fast. Yellow metal. Okay, sorry about that. I got a little tongue twisted. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go into my materials and I'm going to start with kind of a base color. And let's see. Let's do a painted metal. I'm going to hold down control and I can drop it right on that mesh ID selection that we made. All right. Now with that selected, I've got my mesh selection selected here. So this allows me to do a number of things. I'm going to take this guy and I'm just going to do paint. And this is just going to act as my paint layer. And now I can scroll down here. And I told you guys this is context sensitive, right? So if I go into this, right, this tab over here changes. That's what I mean by context sensitive. Depending on what I've got selected is what is gonna what's gonna appear. So I'm just gonna go to my color, select this yellow. I can even bring, you can even find your color and then use this color picker, and I can just go find it out here. Well, that's not it. There it is. So boom, just like that. So here it is, right? So this is, this is kind of what it looks like, but I want to take this guy a step further for you guys to show you guys how I would go about if I wanted to add a little bit of metal edge wear, a little bit of dirt or something like that, how I would go about doing that. All right, so we've got our nice mellow yellow, right? Paint over here. This will be our base. The next thing I want to do is now we can go in here. Let's see. Let's add maybe like an iron or something. But before we do that, let's add a little more interest to our metal here. I'm gonna add a new folder, and I'm gonna just throw our paint layer in there. And then I'm gonna add a white mask. And in this mask, actually, I'll add a paint layer. Actually, no. Let's add a black mask. And what I'm gonna do is actually add a new fill layer. And then on this fill layer, in the roughness channel, I'm gonna look for. So we've got all these grunge maps that we can use, right? So I'm gonna find something that looks cool. And I know something like a galvanized metal or something like that. You want to find something cool. So like, let's see. So let's go in here. I'm gonna go into my roughness. I'm gonna do grunge. So we've got rust fine. Ooh, I've got that grunge galvanized scale. I'm gonna use this guy. All right. So now you guys can't really see what's happening unless I hit add actually. Whoops. So let's turn off my height, metal, color, normal, and I just want the roughness. Alright, so let's hit M on the keyboard. And what this is going to do is it's going to add just a little bit, right? If I turn it off, you see that? It's just going to add just a little bit of interest to that surface normal. To that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's breaking up that plasticky kind of look, and it's giving it a little more so that whenever light or something passes over it, you're going to get something that looks a little cooler to the eye. And what you can do with this guy is I've got my grunge. I'm going to maybe increase the balance a little bit just to make sure that it's not too overpowering. I want it to be there, but it's subtle. And yeah, that's kind of that's nice. Maybe just reduce it a little bit. All right. And another thing you can do is right here, instead of it being projected on the UVs, I'm going to try to project it using the triplanar projection, right? Because it just does a better job. It blends it from the X, Y, and Z position, so you get a better blend, and your seams don't show up as much. And another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase the scale just a little bit, right? So now you guys can see. And then I'm going to go back here and just maybe increase, right, that balance. Go back and reduce this scale. Something like that. All right. So we've given it a little bit of like scuff, and you can just do a little bit, scuffs. You can always do another layer, and the better your textures are gonna look is the more layers that you put on them, right? Like the more love you show, the more you think about and try to build your materials up, your textures up, from ground up, the more realistic they're gonna look, the better they're gonna look and translate in the long run. So let's move along with this guy because it's really only two textures. Once we finish this, we just duplicate it and then we do the metal, and but a lot of the work is gonna be in how subtly we can just start throwing some of this stuff in there. So uh, if I want, I can turn off this gizmo with this guy right here. That's the manipulator. And then you can change the manipulator size, but I'm gonna turn it off right now. And I'm gonna hit Control and D to duplicate this guy. And I'm just gonna go into this, let's now look for scratches maybe, right? So now I want to find like something with scratches, scratched, right? And now we've got something, right, nice and scratchy on there, all right? So you guys can see what I'm saying. It's like it's subtle things like this, and then you can even reduce it. That's on the normal. I don't know why it's on the normal. Oh, it's on the normal. Right. So I'm building up on this. Right. So let's do yellow paint. So now I've got like a nice little base going on. Let's name this guy Scratches. Right. And we've got them all in a layer, nice and kind of tucked away. So another thing you can do, so if I wanted to add like a metal edge wear or something, like this is there's raw metal under it or exposed. I want metal on these little edges that I've made here, right? What I can do is I can now add, let's find a metal, a raw metal. So maybe I like this raw damaged metal a little bit. I'm gonna throw that in here. I'm gonna bring this guy in here. All right, I like this kind of raw damaged metal. It's not bad. Let's see, maybe, let's see, shiny, pure. Maybe this galvanized. Yeah, I think I like this iron galvanized, this galvanized metal. Yeah, I like this. There we go. So this is cool. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to increase the scale once again, just so like the flakes are a little smaller. And then let's try triplanar projection once again. And now what I want to do is I'm gonna add a black mask. Actually, let's add a filter to it. And the filter we're gonna do is no, we're gonna add an effect. Sorry. And let's do metal edge, right? So now it's gonna generate a metal edge wear on the edge of the mask itself. All right. So what I can do is I can add uh, a mask with a color selection here, and then I can just select the colors that I want. I'm gonna throw this guy in there. So now it's only affecting what I want it to affect, right? So now I've got my metal edgeware, and I want to actually, let's go into our metal edgeware and fix it up a little bit. All right. So now that we've got, I'm gonna reduce that edgeware level, right? So we've got something like that. All right, we've got a lot of interesting, interesting things going on right now. And that's what I like to see, right? We're starting to get, you know, reduce, increase the grunge. If you increase the grunge, you can see that it starts to break it up a little bit more, right? I like that a little bit. I don't want to go too overboard, right? The idea is not to go too overboard, but not to be too, you know, prudish with it, I guess is the too stingy. Let me just reduce, increase the grunge. I'm gonna just reduce the wear level a little more. It's just too much. There we go. Something like that. Something that says I've been used, but I'm not done yet. Something like that. That's what this model says to me right now. It's like, yeah, I've been used. I've seen better days, but a little paint and polish, and I'll be good as new. You know. So here we go. All right, so the next thing we would want to add onto this is like if we wanted to add some dirt, dust, or something like that to this. Like I like to add this very subtly. I can't tell you guys how subtly I mean. Super subtle. Like I mean Splinter Cell subtle. I mean Hitman subtle, and you have to do the mission without anybody finding out. That's how subtly I put my dust on here. All right, so let me show you guys how I would do that. I'm going to start by making a new fill layer. All right, so this fill layer, I'm going to turn it brown. And I don't want nothing on this fill layer except for color. That's all I want. I don't want nothing but color. And I want to, what's my best dirt impression? Let's see, brown, something brown like that, right? Like some dirt. Maybe dust. Let's go dust first. Let's go dust. Dust is a little lighter. It maybe settles, right? It's going to settle in these crevices and stuff like that. So we've got my dust. I'm going to do my roughness here. Let's make it all the way rough because rough dust has no shininess. I know it's a technically sound term right there. So now what I want to do is I'm gonna add uh, let's actually add another generator, and we will add this dirt. No, 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 no. So let's add a black mask, and then here we're gonna add the. I'm gonna say it's in the generator. Okay, here we go. So yeah, dirt. So you throw it in the mask, and you see how unsubtle it is right now. It's very very like, yo, y'all haven't dusted this place in years, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna reduce my dirt level, maybe increase my contrast a little bit so it just settles in the little corners, right? A little Windex, pick it right up, right? None crazy. So now if I turn it off, you guys can see what it's really doing. So let me get a nice glancing angle where you can see all of this flatness in its magnificence. All right, so let's turn it off. All right, look, just a little bit, nothing crazy, just a little subtleness, right? You're a chef. You're a chef with this, Chef Curry with the modeling. That's what you guys are, right? So you want something subtle like that. And then I'm just gonna, throw it back in here. I might want to bring it up over the galvanized metal just to make sure, right? Like look at that. We got I don't have to tweak too much. I don't want you see that's too much. That's too much. We reduce it, boom, you know. So this is when taste, right? Your artistic taste starts to come in, right? And a lot of you guys are still very, very heavy-handed as artists, right? Whatever you're thinking in your mind, I would half it. You know what? I would a little more than half it, right? Whatever amount you're thinking in your head you should use on that dial, bring that thing back because you guys, your eyes are still very very young. Your eyes are still very very like you're not recognizing yet how much you need to let off the gas, and you think, oh, if I show that it's metal, that you don't need but a little bit of scratches to let people know underneath this is metal you know so little subtleties will go a long way. It'll take you a very very long way. So another thing you can do is, if you want, you can throw search for an all HVAO. All right, so let me add this layer, and then let me see if this will. I want to add another. I I don't know how I'm gonna like it, but I kind of want maybe another pass of ambient occlusion on top. So let's add new layer. Let's turn all these off, and I just want add a black mask, and I'm just gonna throw this on there. Let's add an effect. Let's do HVAO. Alright, okay. Let's clear this mask. see if I can get any action. So it's in the height. Okay, so let's just move on to this metal part. This other part right here. So this is kind of like it's kind of similar, but I would start with like a rough plastic for this part. So I'll show you guys, and I'll do a similar process. Like let's do materials. My plastic. It's diamond plastic. Let's find a rough and tumble kind of plastic. Plastic that isn't very uh, mm, maybe this grainy plastic will work. Alright, we're gonna try this grainy plastic right here. Ooh, it's very rough. And let's increase the scale. Something like that. Alright, increase the scale here. And I want to do something similar. So let's add a mask selection, and we're going to just use that to select this red guy right here. And what I'm going to do now is something similar. And the cool thing is I can essentially borrow all of this and use it for that. So I can use all of these scratches and stuff that I've made. I can, control D to duplicate it and then use it for this for this guy. So all that work I just did, oh, guess who doesn't have to do it again? This guy. Right? And all I have to do now is group these guys up. I'm gonna actually bring, yeah, this guy is good. This guy's good. I'm gonna shift. I'm gonna put these guys in a folder, metal, and then bring these guys in like so. All right, so one thing that I'm noticing from our metal is our dirt doesn't really fit anymore, so we need to go into the parameters, select right here, right, and change them. So, because this kind of gives it like the paint is a little bubbly on top, and that's kind of like what I wanted on there. It's like kind of like a more of a coarse metal, and look at that. Look at that. We didn't have to do nothing. We already got some that looks ready to go. This is game ready. All right, so now all we got to do is, using our, selection sets, start, you just go into our color selection right there. Boom. You know, I mean, this is pretty easy once you really get down to it, and just, I don't know, pick. Let's go down here, pick. All right. Here we go. And just like that, we have textured this guy. Right? And you guys have to remember that this isn't like the mid poly one. This is the trash poly one. So, and I expect you guys to get similar results from this, right? And the next part is, hey, let's render this guy out. So, if I wanted to render out my image here, I'm just gonna go into this little camera. This little camera. Oh no, we've got all this extra nonsense in the back. Let's get rid of that stuff. Okay, sphere with background. Let's do clear color for the back, no ground, and now we're cooking. See, and the thing is, if you come close, you can see the illusion. You can see where my point is. But that's not, most times you're gonna see it from like right there. And from right there, you can't tell the difference. Looks good regardless. So, yeah, that is how you make a low poly asset like this. So now I've got, I just wait for it to do its thing. Wait, 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 wait. Actually, do this just so we have a bigger render to save out on something cool. So you guys know what your assignment is for next week. This is due on Monday. All you guys have to do is go through this exact same process that I did. You guys have the exact same model. I'm uploading this video as soon as this is over so you guys can watch it again and do the exact same thing. So now, yes. So let me save this out as, nope, what did I do that for? Render. Platform. And now that it's saved out, I can now upload it. All right, that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions? All right, guys. Today's class was fun, informative, and hopefully I got to the point pretty quickly.